think about the best employees or coworkers that you've had and answer these questions like with them in mind, or what you've done.
Yeah,
so
cool.
Just kind of keeping that in mind.
Okay.
Okay. So when you think about the best employees in your company has hired, how were they first discovered or noticed?
Yeah.
Maybe in your previous when you're doing the hiring.
Yeah, I'll draw on, because I just recently switched companies, so I'm not going to maybe draw on that experience too much, but a little bit prior, like just when I had first graduated about 8 years ago, I had a really good experience going into a startup company there.
Okay.
And there was actually a pretty good hodgepodge of employees because it was a startup environment. So I think what made the best employees there were the ones that were willing to teach others, but also learn themselves. So I think about some other experiences I've had where immediately going into a place, the people that I was attracted to were the ones who were willing to be like, listen to who I was. I was a new guy, and they were willing to learn from me. And that's a really good quality to have as an employee, is you're willing to learn from others. You're willing to teach others as well. So it's just kind of a two-way communication there versus like, say, somebody who's willing. I've never really been a fan of the being put on the spot and then letting you fail publicly in front of other people or something like that, you know. I love the idea of being challenged, and I think that's, if I think of leaders I've had who were really good, they were really good at challenging me to do a little better in my role, or they were good at putting me in touch with others in the company who were already performing well. So I think maybe some of those characteristics are they are performing in their role really well, then they're willing to teach you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you find this new job that you had?
This was, I would say, mostly networking.
Okay.
So there was a need because I had gone through a round of layoffs at the other place, so there's like an urgency to find a job.
I see.
But I went on LinkedIn and really just looked for roles that fit well into what I wanted to do. And I'd been thinking about a move for last year or so I'd been already doing some research. And then I reached out to people at church, and I reached out to friends who I know had worked at the company. One of my friend's moms had worked there, and so she reached out to me. I actually was like, "You'd be great at this." So I think that's a huge thing. Is just the most important thing I did was reach out to the network.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, and that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So when you were sorting through applicants, when you did this, what makes one person rise to the top before even the interview stage?
For me, it's like a sight and a smell test. I mean, usually the thing you have in front of you is some sort of profile. If it was a screening from HR or it is a resume, immediately being able to look at that resume and knowing like there's some concrete material there. I do look at format for that. Like, is it communicated well?
Yeah.
Does it follow kind of a standard practice a little bit? Is the spelling right in that? Just some of those basic things. But then as you dig into the content a little bit, it's kind of like, what are they telling me? Is there some metrics to what they've done?
I see.
Is it just, rather than just saying like, I improved things and I'm a hard worker, does it show some like action items that they've taken to show that they're a hard worker? Like, what does that mean? How do you get that to come off the paper a little bit more?
Okay.
So
proof kind of in
yeah, I think that ends up kind of like putting your resume in a pile of I'm more interested versus I've got, especially in the environment we're in right now, they're getting 200 applicants or so per role for different roles at different places. So to really get into that first, once a HR person or a manager has about 10 applicants they like, after their first screening, they're gonna just sit through those ones, even if they kind of pushed a really good candidate into the other pile, right? And not because and that's just kind of like, I think, I don't know how to put it. the mechanics, I guess, of when you're sorting through that information. And that's going to depend on how well I think the company does too at screening candidates before they give it to a hiring manager a little bit. But if you can do anything to get your resume to the top of that manager's mind, I think that's going to help you get to the next round of interviews. So that's kind of where I talked earlier. Like, I know that the biggest thing I did to get my next role was network.
Yeah.
Because in the interview, the hiring manager said, well, what does this person's name mean to you?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, that's the person who suggested I apply for the job and start reaching out to people.
Yeah.
You know?
So whatever you can do to get your resume to make that final 10.
To get yeah.
That's having somebody network and saying this is one you want.
To get your name kind of in the building too.
Yeah.
Like, I guess if I think of the current role I'm in too, as funny as it is, my daughter's preschool teacher was like, oh, well, what do you do? You're looking for work. Are you an engineer? I'm like, no, I'm not an engineer. I'm in supply chain. And she's like, okay, well, my friend does this. And why don't you just reach out to him? I'll tell him you're going to reach out. So then it was just an email to him and say, hey, I know Becky. She teaches my daughter at the preschool. She says you're really good at this, and this is the field I'm in, and here's what I'm looking for. And then a quick email back was, hey, we'll apply for these 3 roles.
Oh, cool.
So that's kind of how you start to rise to the top of that applicant pile.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I like that. All right, well, let's talk about the past the finding stage, the interview stage.
Yeah.
Are there any qualities or skills that make someone stand out during the initial hiring process beyond the resume and formal qualifications?
Yeah. I think showing up to the interview dressed appropriately for the job. You know, I remember even thinking all the way back to high school, being taught, you know, dress one level up from the position you're applying for.
I would teach the same thing.
You know, and I think it's great advice. It's also really good though, like if you're going into an industry knowing kind of what they wear day to day, because like I worked for a power plant, and it was good to show up in the interview dressed well, but it was more business casual and even more casual, like, you know, jeans and button-up t-shirts, where I feel like if I showed up in a suit, it would have been a little uncomfortable.
I see, yeah.
So uncomfortable, I would say dress kind of where your comfort level is too, but be aware that there is a business etiquette and a culture at each place you go to. So it's okay to ask HR or whoever, like, hey, and by the way, like, what is the dress code there? What is the etiquette? And even play off your own natural cues too. Like if you know, like you've grown up in agriculture and you're going to work in an ag sort of business, just know you kind of can dress whatever you would wear to maybe like a wedding reception or something a little bit, you know, just whatever the culture is of wherever you're going. Find out what that is and then dress for that.
Okay.
So dress is one of those things. Kind of the question again was outside of your...
Yeah, so what qualities and skills make someone stand out during the initial hiring process beyond the resume and stuff?
Yeah, okay, perfect, yeah. Yeah, I would say mannerisms too.
Okay.
Like how do they act when they come in to the building? Especially if you're kind of in a small team. A lot of interviews now are done online though, but I will still kind of touch on this because I was hiring people. They would come into the building and the first person they would meet is the receptionist, and the last person they would see when they left was the receptionist. Sorry, our admin.
Yeah.
And who's the first person I went and talked to after they left?
So smart.
You know, it was like, how did they do? What was your first impressions? I think that kind of surprised my admin or team member at the time, because maybe she just wasn't used to being asked that question. But I remember her asking me like, well, why does it matter what I think? It's like, well, you kind of gauge culture of everybody in the store when they first walk in, and anyways, you're good at it, so why wouldn't I ask you? So I think just understanding how you're presenting yourself as you come in to the building, or even on a virtual call. Like I wasn't super comfortable doing a ton of virtual interviews. You know, especially 5 years ago, that would have been
Yeah.
There's always sort of faux pas, but just making sure that like you're getting, before you sit down to have the interview, like make sure your background is clean and uncluttered. Or I don't know, nowadays it probably wouldn't even be wrong to put a filter in the background. I'm not gonna stick to that advice completely, but
No.
it's pretty standard to be in a virtual interview now. So
I love that because I'll interview students for jobs and stuff like virtually.
yeah,
And their closets were wide open. They hadn't made their bed.
right.
And not to put words in your mouth, but a lot of times you're looking for reasons not to hire them. And so if like there's two candidates and there's just like little things like they didn't even prepare their area for their interview, can be a red flag. Maybe not a huge red flag, but it's still. Sometimes it's little things.
Well, in the like my career field, being in supply chain and operations, I think detail oriented is a huge thing.
Okay.
And it's probably true for a lot of things. So whatever you can do to show how detail oriented you are as you're coming into an interview, those little cues do I think matter to the hiring managers.
Oh, interesting.
So,
are there any? Well, let me ask you. What are the most common reasons someone gets hired, even when there are multiple qualified candidates?
Yeah, that one's a little harder for me because I generally felt like my candidates were there was just one clear candidate to choose. But yeah, maybe if I think on that.
Okay, maybe we'll come back to that. Because the next question is, are there any warning signs or gaps that make you hesitate to hire someone, even if they on paper look qualified?
Yeah, I think I had an experience once where I was helping a hiring manager, and I knew the candidate really well. Well, I'd been in some classes with the candidate, and I knew he was capable. Unfortunately, I kind of feel bad. Looking back, I wish I had given him a little bit more prep coming to the interview, because that hiring manager. Well, let me take this another way. Maybe that's not really the best way to share that story. Let me put it this. I remember being in the interview with this guy, and I was looking back on when I interviewed with him to when this other gentleman was interviewing with him, and he was testing my resume and my technical skills a little bit. So I think just make sure you don't put anything down on your resume that you're not comfortable speaking to or comfortable demonstrating a little bit. So I think that's a better way to put that. So.
Okay. I like that. I mean, because if you put it on your resume, then that's something that you should be competent about, right?
Yeah.
Huh. All right. So there is a stage. Some of it's formal, like I'm going to give you 6 months to kind of test out the waters and make sure it's a good fit for us. But sometimes it's, hey, you're hired, but there's still kind of that initiation stage or that trial stage.
Right.
After someone is hired, what qualities or behaviors help them become a strong long-term fit for the workforce?
Well, I can even answer this from my career point, because I feel like I can look back to former roles I've had and be like, man, I wish I had waited and wish I had did more early in my career is just get to know who your coworkers are and who your leaders are. Maybe some advice to anyone who's starting their career or just walking in the door somewhere is you don't have to prove your worth by having a huge accomplishment or win for the business right away. Those things will come, especially if you're talented. Those things are just going to come naturally. That's what work is. Like, you go to work, you get an assignment, it's just like school, you do really well on that assignment, and everyone's happy with it. But then you just move on to the next one. So like your accomplishments will pile up over time. That's just, as time goes on, that happens. But for me personally, I wish I had just, in every role I've been in, I look back and go, I wish I had just been a little more patient to understand who people were, who my leader was, what they were interested in, what things annoyed them, and what things were important to them. And then same when I became a hiring manager, and stepped in a role, I wish the number one thing I'd done more is just get to know the team maybe for a month or 2 months or 3 months more before I ever started kind of pushing initiatives. And I understand it's going to change based on your workplace, but yeah, I would say.
For sure. Are there any skills and characteristics that separate employees who simply just want to perform their job versus they want to be a strong candidate for promotion?
Yeah, and I actually don't think either one. I think both those things are great. And I think it's even better if a leader can let their team know how it's important to them that they do develop people in the role they're in, and it's important to know those who do want to move up and want to promote higher in the company. And because I think you're going to learn I think it's going to be a little bit different coaching for both those roles. And if both people can communicate that clearly, meaning the candidate or the new employee or the team member as well as the leader, like if you can just break down any sort of like barriers to communication there would be about what your future is going to look like in the company, I think it helps create a lot more clear development plans, and then also helps that leader be like, hey, I want to bring this person in on this meeting to meet these other folks in the company because they've expressed interest in promotion, or hey, I want to hand this project off to so-and-so because they want a little more experience in the role they're in, so this will give them a ton of experience in their role. So it's really important, I think, to actually make that clear from both the leader and from the teammate, because I guess if I go back to my own career, that's something that I'm really focusing on right now, is making it clear like what my timetable is of wanting to promote versus I want to get a little deeper into just seeing how the gears spin in my current role. So
you're kind of in that stage right now. How long ago did you switch jobs?
It's been 2 months.
Okay,
yeah.
So
it's very fresh. Yeah. So
interesting. Well, maybe some of these things that you're teaching me are applicable. All right, so now we're at the promotion stage. From dealing with your experiences, what qualities, behavior skills, or I should say what skill gaps prevent people from being promoted even when they're technically really good at their jobs?
Yeah. Just let me think for a minute, because it's a good question. I'm just thinking of different experiences that maybe I've had or I've seen.
I love experiences.
In some folks.
They give me a meat that I can actually use for training.
Yeah. Well, because I think back, I'm just thinking about one individual, and they were capable in the sense that they were doing everything was right, but I think what came down to was just reliability. They just had some things that they need to work on to show that they would be more reliable in just showing up. So I think that's maybe a quality that managers should be looking for, or will be looking for. But then I think it also just comes down to, and this is kind of an interesting question, because I'm just going, there's so many different levels of experience in the workplace. So, I mean, you could be moving up from just a team member to a team lead. I mean, I'm sure maybe this is there's different qualities that go from a team lead up to a director, right? So, but I'm trying to think if there's any qualities that hit in between that.
Between, all right, being a team, even a team member, team lead, going to be a director, what is that magic? What is it that they're doing that would prevent somebody that's just on the team?
You know what? I think one thing that I've seen in, like, especially in my leaders, is that if there's kind of a switch at some point from being the doer and being really good and the subject matter expert to being able to direct the work. And it's actually kind of interesting to see that. And some of the best leaders I've ever had were at the director level, were able to assign the work out and know what they wanted, so they were able to speak it of like what they wanted to happen, and then just give you good direction along the way. So I think there is a point in your career where you're going to need to see what are the skills that it takes to direct the work versus be really good at doing the work.
Okay.
Because I think it's interesting. I've had leaders who didn't necessarily do the functional work really good at leading that role because they were just good at helping people see where they fit and in the value stream and how to move things forward. So
okay. That communication.
Yeah.
That's interesting. All right, I got 2 more questions for you. When you think about the people, maybe in your old job, but if you think about the people who are successful in your organization or industry, what qualities, characteristics, or skills do they consistently demonstrate?
Well, I think I touched on earlier, like willingness to teach, and being able to see that when you teach someone, then it's kind of like you're growing your own capacity.
Yeah.
They become an extension of what you're able to do, so it frees you up to do more.
I see.
So I've seen that in a couple leaders that I'm currently working for. I mean, it's been a couple months, but that's something that I've seen also in past roles is those leaders don't hold on to anything. They don't hold on anything for this fear of like losing a job or job security. They're actually willing to give knowledge as effectively and fast as they can, especially to those people who can pick it up and will run with it. If they trust you and they know your capabilities there, it does start to become an extension of what they're able to accomplish and what they're able to get done. So I think that's one quality, is being able to hand off
I like
that information. What was the question again? Because
when you think about the people that are most successful in the organization or industry,
yeah.
What characteristics, qualities, or skills do they consistently demonstrate?
Yeah, so that being able to teach others, being able to learn, so being humble themselves, and like being able to continue to like. There's times when I've been the happiest in my role when my leader's like, oh, I didn't know that's how that worked. Hey, how did you do that? Why don't you show me how you did that? You know, those moments feel really good. Because then it does feel more like a collaboration rather than just a directive. So I think humility is a good one. I'm saying these things. I look back. I don't know if I've been when I've been in that leadership role. I don't know if I've done these super well, but it's all practice, right? So
it is. Well, and it's interesting because as I've done these interviews, that's one of that almost every interview person brings up is that humility factor.
Yeah.
Teachable learning, giving, serving. Like it's really interesting that there's those components in there.
Yeah. Like there's people that will be motivated by someone just beating them up.
Yeah.
And going hard, but I'm like, I don't know how sustainable that is. Yeah. I think of like an athlete who's like, it maybe in an individual sport, like that works. I think that pressure works in some environments, but still it breaks down, like in those environments where you're being pushed and pushed and pushed, like it breaks your body down. And you know, like, yeah, so like then like you aren't able to perform as long. Business is kind of like, or companies, like you're gonna work there for your lifetime. So I like the way I feel like a lot of industries are shifting more to like that servant leadership mindset. Because I think you will create longevity for employees and better results.
I agree.
So.
Okay, I got one last question for you.
Okay.
If you could go back to your 17-year-old self to give advice, and they want to be successful, they want to get promoted, they want to have a stable job, what would you have them, let me make sure I ask this right, what would you tell them to develop first and why?
Okay. Well, I'm just trying to think of how things kind of played out back then a little bit and what's missing now. If you'd asked it different, I was going to say buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Nah.
I know, it's like Tesla is not just...
Yes, buy that. Trying to think, because
mostly what would you develop first and why? Knowing now what you know now, having to switch jobs, what would you tell your 17-year-old self?
yeah, I think just tell them to be patient and learn as much as you can from how the people you know that are leaders or people you look up to, how they treat other people. So like just pay really close attention. You don't have to prove yourself when you walk into a room. That's going to come anyways, because you're talented and you're smart. So you can solve problems. So those things will naturally happen. But just focus on how you treat others and how the people in the room are interacting with each other. I think that's something I would really hit on.
Oh, good. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time. I'm very cognizant of the kind